The House will come to order. This morning, the Pledge of Allegiance will be said by Diego Nelson and Leah Garcia from Bella. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Will all those in the chamber please remain standing until the colors are posted? I got ahead of myself, excuse me. And now for the pledge. This morning, the Pledge of Allegiance will be said by Diego Nelson and Leah Garcia from Bella Romero Academy and Rowan Montoya from Montfort Elementary in Greeley, Colorado. And they are guests of Representative Young.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Randall, please call the roll. Yep. I would like to thank some visitors this morning. The colors were presented this morning by Cadet Captain Cale Tepper. Could I please have your attention? The colors this morning were presented by Cadet Captain Cale Tepper, Chief Master Sergeant Cooper Eisman, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Bidya Nirula, and Cadet Technical Sergeant David Densmore from the Valkyrie Cadet Squadron of the Civil Air Patrol. Thank you for being here. And the national anthem was performed by the University of Northern Colorado Concert Choir and Graduate Brass Quintet, and those are also guests of Representative Young. Mr. Randall, now you can call the roll.
Representatives aren't excused. Baisley, Benavides, Byrd, Bockenfeld, excused. Buck, Buckner, Buenteo, Caravale, Carver, Catlin, Champion, Coleman, Cutter, Duran, Escar, Exum, Froelich,
You have to go all the way around, okay?
Representative Froelich,
You're welcome, they did a great job. I know we can't go down the middle, we have to go. And you can go back to that area and stand up by the...
Froelich, excused.
Garnett,
That's the
Garnett.
of the house who signed it. Casey back.
Geithner,
Okay?
Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray.
You can go down.
Representative Froelich is present. Herod,
Thank you.
Herod,
I saw her, she's here.
Holtorf,
There she is.
Hooten, Humphrey, Jackson, Hawkes Lewis, Kennedy, Kip, Kraftharp, Kraftharp, Landgraf, Larson, Liston, Lontine, McCluskey, McKean, McLaughlin, Melton, Michelson Janae, Mollica, Neville, Pelton, good morning, Ransom, Rich, Roberts, Sane, Sandridge, Singer, Sirota, Snyder, Soper, Sullivan, Tipper. God. Titone, Valdez A, Valdez D, Van Winkle, Weisman. Will. Williams. Wilson. Woodrow. Young. Young. Madam Speaker Becker.
Excused. With 63 present and 3 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I move the Journal of Tuesday, February 18th, 2020 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes. Now for announcements and introductions, Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. Members, can I have your attention, please? So this is a very special day for me. I want to welcome folks from my district and my area for House District 29 Day at the Capitol. This is an annual event that actually I started here at the Capitol, and to be able to bring people from the district down here to be able so they could see firsthand the work that their representative does. So if you all could welcome the folks from House District 29, I would really appreciate it.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Colleagues, it's a special day for me as well. 4 years ago, my youngest granddaughter was born.
Oh.
5 weeks premature, so she was pretty small, but today she's 4 years old, and she's a little bit larger. So this is Remy Elizabeth. She's 4 years old today, and she also has a message for all of you.
Representative Wilson, she's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. And in terms of thanks for taking care of, hopefully that was meant in the positive sense, but we try to do a good job of taking care of each other. The Colorado Assisted Living Association is having their annual legislative reception tonight at 5:30 at the Colorado Automobile Dealers Association. So if you want to see Cala at CADA, we'll see you tonight at 5:30.
Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Folks, today we will have the Energy Caucus lunch downstairs. We would love to see you there. We're going to be talking a lot about the folks who've gone down the path that we seem to be going down and what lessons we have to learn. It is lunch. It is a really, really good opportunity to hear some of what we are talking about when we talk about energy, a way to expand your horizons. So come on down.
Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Members, we have a very special guest with us today, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce him. We have with us former Representative Larry Liston. Larry, if you'll stand, we'd like to recognize you. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate it.
Representative Champion and Mr. Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Members, we do actually have a former representative in here and also a current elected official, County Commissioner Kathleen Conti.
We're delighted that she's here.
It's good to see you, Representative Conti. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Transportation and Local Government, we will meet at 1:30 today over in LSBA to hear House Bill 1196, House Bill 1201, and House Bill 1138. See you then.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I'm here actually to introduce Scott Wilson and his wife, whose name escapes me at this moment. These are guests of Madam Speaker Pro Tem, but also Scott is a cancer survivor who came and testified on a bill in one of the most moving, powerful testimonies I have ever heard. He is on the board of directors of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. He was, as I mentioned, a young onset colorectal cancer survivor and a business leader. We're so honored to have him and his wife here in the chamber today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Representative Tipper. Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I am just thrilled, absolutely thrilled to see my hometown, the city of Greeley, here at the Capitol. Welcome. Welcome to your house. We've got the city manager, we've got the Greeley mayor, we've got the economic development person, we've got everything. So welcome to your house, and you just bless us for being here. Thank you so much.
Representative Lontine. Members, could you please lower your voices? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Good morning, Health and Insurance Committee members. We do have a hearing this afternoon at 1:30. We're meeting in our usual spot in room 112. We are hearing House Bill 1008 for action only, and House Bills 1085, 1065, and 1075 are filling out the rest of our agenda. See you there.
Representative Holtorf.
You're doing Civil Air Patrol, right? Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Oh, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, esteemed colleagues. I'm here to remind you that at noon we are doing the Colorado Ag Council. Everything you wear, everything you eat, and many of the pharmaceuticals that you take come from agriculture and production agriculture. So the stakeholders in this state will be meeting. We'll be talking about ag issues and how they pertain to the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I have a tribute, and I ask that it be read at length. A tribute, members.
The House of Representatives, convened in the 72nd General Assembly, hereby extends sincere commendations to the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol, a congressionally chartered auxiliary of the United States Air Force, has provided great service to the state of Colorado since 1942. The Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol now has over 900 unpaid adult volunteers and over 1,000 cadets serving the state in emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. The Colorado wing served prominently in assisting FEMA and state and local agencies during the Colorado floods and wildfires in recent years and has assisted with search and rescue efforts across the nation. In 2019, the Colorado wing participated in operations that resulted in 15 lives saved and 35 successful finds. The Colorado Cadet Squadrons have won honors in cyber defense competitions and in color guard competition. Civil Air Patrol continues to provide flight instruction to cadets to earn their private pilot certificates, and Civil Air Patrol's aerospace education program touches an increasing number of students across Colorado, emphasizing the aviation and space connection to science, technology, math, government, and economics. The Colorado State House of Representatives expresses their deep gratitude to the members of the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol for their service to the people of Colorado and to this great nation. Tribute on request of Representative Daphna Michelson-Janae, given this 19th day of February 2020, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, please feel free to sit down. I hope you enjoyed this morning's color guard and beautiful anthem. We have Civil Air Patrol cadets who are in the gallery, I believe. If you're in the gallery, stand up. I think they might have all gone to the Senate. And you know why they might have all gone to the Senate? Let me tell you why, members. Only 96% of us are members of the Civil Air Patrol. 100% of them are members of the Civil Air Patrol. So there are a few outstanding members here who are not members. So let me just tell you a little bit about why thank you so much, Minority Leader Neville. My card is right on my desk too. The reason why we support this group of volunteers is because they spend their own time in service to teach our youth about aviation, about STEM, all the things that we talk about here. And many of those youth go on to serve our nation flying airplanes either for the military or for their own, like one of them is a United Airlines pilot. So we are so grateful for the Civil Air Patrol. And we have a surprise. I was going to introduce who's on the floor, but before I realized he's not on the floor, so you're going to have to tell him. There is a surprise for Colonel Gary Toby, who is our #1 contact. It is another tribute, and this tribute is because in 2019, Colonel Toby was inducted into the Colorado Aviation Hall of Fame. So when you see Colonel Toby, you tell him congratulations on being inducted into the Colorado Hall of Fame. We also have on the floor Colonel John Rhodes, Colonel Glenn Cabbage, Lieutenant Colonel William Robinson, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Daniels. Please give them a large round of applause.
Representative Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm up here for a tribute. Members, I have a tribute. And I ask that it be read at length. If you are part of the Alzheimer's tribute, please come forward.
We're going to pass a rule, no more than one tribute per day. Representative Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am grateful for that rule. Okay, we have a couple of members who are going to participate in this. So first, let us hear the tribute read at length.
The House of Representatives, convened in the 72nd General Assembly, hereby recognizes February 19th of 2020 as Alzheimer's Association Day. The Colorado House of Representatives recognizes the volunteers, advocates, and staff of the Colorado chapter of the Alzheimer's Association who work tirelessly to support Coloradans living with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, their families, and their caregivers. Alzheimer's and other dementias are characterized by a decline in memory, thinking, reasoning, and other cognitive abilities severe enough to interfere with daily activities. However, its impact is not just on those with the disease. Dementia affects entire families, exacting tremendous financial and emotional hardships. The Colorado chapter of the Alzheimer's Association works with volunteers in communities across our state to support the 325,000 Coloradans impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia. They provide care and support services free of charge to families struggling with dementia, raise funds for dementia-related medical research, and strive to increase education and awareness about the disease. Today, we recognize their Herculean efforts in Colorado and welcome them to the Capitol. Tribute on request of Representative Daphne Michelson Janae, given this 19th day of February 2020, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, today is Alzheimer's Day at the Capitol, and a number of people from across our state are here to highlight the daily struggles of Colorado families dealing with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. The individuals living with the disease, their family, caregivers, and the family members supporting them. Some of them are in the gallery. Welcome to the Colorado Capitol building. You can see them up there. You will notice that different colored flowers have been placed on our desks. The Alzheimer's Association uses these flowers in their walk events. Each color represents a different connection to dementia, our constituents' reasons for being here today. If you have an orange flower, please join Representative Kennedy in raising it and keeping it held high. The orange flowers represent individuals who have not been touched by this devastating disease personally, but who support the cause and the association's vision of a world without Alzheimer's. Everyone with a purple flower, please join Representative Landgraf in raising your flower and keeping it held high. The purple flower represents individuals and families who have lost someone to Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. If you have a yellow flower, please join Representative Valdez in raising your flower. It might be purple. Okay, if you have a yellow flower, please hold that high and keeping it held high. The yellow flower represents the 250,000 Coloradans who are currently, thank you, Minority Leader Neville has the yellow. Come forward with that yellow. Come on, we need a yellow up here. Thank you, Minority Leader Neville. The yellow flower represents the 250,000 Coloradans who are currently supporting or caring for someone with Alzheimer's. Our blue flower, held by Kathy Reginato, a constituent of Representative Singer. Where is Kathy? Who's holding that in the back over there. See, blue flower held high. Represents the 73,000 Coloradans living with Alzheimer's today. Kathy is joined on the floor today by her husband Dave, her son Nathan, and his wife Erin. Thank you all for joining us today. Members, please take a moment to look at the symbolic flowers that surround you. These flowers represent all of the different ways our constituents are touched by this devastating disease. With this colorful display of determination, I am confident that one day we will add another flower to this garden. The white flower, held by Representative Byrd, represents the first survivor of Alzheimer's. Traditionally, the white flower is held by a child, indicating the hope that we have that future generations will live to see a cure for this horrible disease. Until that beautiful day comes, we must continue to work to pass legislation that supports Coloradans with dementia, their families, and their caregivers. Thank you, members, for your time today.
Representative Michelson-Janae, turning something into a tribute doesn't mean you're out of a fine. $3. $3. No. Representative Young.
Donated to the Alzheimer's Society.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chris.
I've been told this is a proper announcement. This is a birthday party. We're here to celebrate the 150th birthday of Greeley. As Rep. Buck already pointed out, we have a wide range of people from Greeley here today. I would like them to stand and acknowledge them. They're from UNC, Ames, the city of Greeley, Banner, our hospital, and also the District 6, our school district. So we are so happy to have them here. Because it is a birthday, you get birthday favors, which are on your desks from Greeley. We thank you, people from Greeley, for joining us today. We also have people in the Senate. I'm going to talk a little bit about Greeley. Go west, young man, go west. And fortunately, that was said by Horace Greeley, who never made it to Greeley, but he obviously inspired a large number of us to go west. And some of us are women too. And probably we wouldn't have had the migration without the women. So what is so special about Greeley? I stopped in Greeley in the early 80s, which I thought was going to be a brief visit, but I fell in love with Greeley, as many of our community members. It has grown in the time since I was there. We are now 110,000 strong and growing. So what is it that we fall in love with in Greeley? You heard our beautiful UNC choir and the brass ensemble. We have many artistic accomplishments. We have a strong university. that I'm UNC, that I'm proud to call my alma mater. That's where I got my doctorate in school psychology. I've worked in the school district for over 28 years. And you can see why Greeley has changed from Greeley Unexpected to My Greeley, because we have many things that we hold dear in Greeley. We have so many services. Not only is the city 150 years old, also the Greeley Philharmonic and a number of other organizations. Some of you wonder why I'm on rural affairs. The county is the number 10 in agriculture in the United States, and our early forefathers prepared us for taking care of water, and I really appreciate everyone being here today, and I invite you to come and visit My Greeley. Thank you.
Happy birthday to Greeley, and thank you all for joining us today. Any other announcements or introductions? Representative Sain is kind of thinking about it. No. Any other announcements or introductions? Then that brings us to third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1031.
House Bill 1031 by Representatives Benavidez and Mullica, also Senators Williams and Hansen, concerning the establishment of a new state holiday in place of Columbus Day.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1031 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1031 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, esteemed body. As we move forward in our legislative work, there are some things I'm going to say that I think need to be said, because this is important to the Italian Americans that have contacted me over the last 5 or 6 days. Native American tribes in this country were not the idyllic, peaceful people that sometimes we speak of. They were not a harmonious group of tribes in North America and or Central America, as we want to speak of history and facts that surround history. Nothing could be farther from the truth. They were warring tribes. They were territorial. They were violent. I can tell you a personal story where I live, of the Cheyenne and the Pawnee in the eastern part of this state. For centuries, they were enemies, hated enemies, because of the territorial conflict that was promulgated between their territorial borders. They would war, they were violent, they would fight. They would even enslave and torture each other if captured. We talk about the slavery and how horrible that tradition was in past history. And it is abhorrent and horrible. But it's real, and it's a part of the history of this country. I will tell you that the Battle of Summit Springs, which I live very close to, was one of the last major Indian battles in Colorado. Tall Bull, the chief, who would not succumb to the mandates of the United States government, continued to war and continued to break treaties. I'm not pointing fingers. Everybody broke treaties in the Indian Wars, but make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it, they also broke treaties. The Pawnee Scouts were the ones that helped Kit Carson gain his fame. Kit Carson is a county named in this state and a city or town because of his exceptional scouting skills. But I will tell you, like many people, he subcontracted to the Pawnee because the Pawnee hated the Cheyenne and wanted to see their demise. and their encampment was identified by Pawnee scouts, reported to Kit Carson, and Kit Carson therefore went and reported to his commander. And you can read the history. The Indian Wars were violent. But make no mistake about it, it was a war. A war. You fight a war to win. Well, maybe we don't anymore. I don't know. But we're supposed to fight wars to win, for whatever our costs. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Columbus, a great Italian navigator, a visionary. He performed exceptional and impossible feats in his day. Italian Americans are very proud of the history that is Columbus and what he did and who he was. If you want to talk about the settlement, if you want to talk about atrocities and disease and sickness that came into this country and the horrible things that happened as we promulgated Manifest Destiny, which ironically is celebrated through the spirits of Horace Greeley and the 150th anniversary of the city of Greeley in the great state of Colorado, I would say that the Dutch, British, and French were more culpable in bringing disease to Europe than one single Italian navigator and visionary and or the Spanish who financed his vision. I will furthermore say that if we're going to rewrite history and we're going to vilify people with 21st century standards in a 15th century world, which is what we are doing today, make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, and I speak to the entire state of Colorado and to this nation, that's the message we send today. Those standards are not fair, they're not measured, and it's unrealistic to apply those. Regardless of how you feel personally, it's not fair in the 15th century to apply 21st century standards. And that's also what we do today when we seek to vote, which we will do, I'm sure, very soon. So I continue to reemphasize that this is not fair. If you truly want to be fair. Now I'll mention something else that needs to be mentioned because I'm told that some things just need to be said. No matter how we vote, it needs to be said, and I'm here to be that messenger. Don't attack the messenger. Don't vilify the messenger. I am merely the messenger. And Italian Americans have brought this message to me, and it needs to be said on their behalf. Chief Seattle has a statue in Washington State. Chief Seattle was a great chief in the Northwest. But let me tell you about Chief Seattle. He was a warrior. He was very territorial. He was violent, powerful and violent. And he enslaved others to accomplish his ends and means. So if we want to pass legislation to remove Columbus Day from our celebration for Italian Americans, then let us consider applying the same 21st century standard to all who may have committed atrocities and crimes against humanity across this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this bill is about establishing a new holiday in honor of Frances Xavier Cabrini for her humanitarian acts, and she would be the first woman that we have honored in this way. I want to remind you that this is a compromise because this has been a festering sore in this state for many, many, many years, at least 30 years that I have been involved in it. And I have heard the story that Columbus was a man of his times, and we should ignore what happens, what he did. But I tell you, do the math. There were less than 100 people that came here with Columbus when he met the Taino people. And when he left, they were nearly decimated. How does that happen when these is a fair fight? How could that possibly happen? You know, manifest destiny is something that we have convinced ourselves is a way to justify taking other people's lands. You know, we have purchased lands. Think of the Louisiana Purchase. Think of when we purchased Alaska from the Russians. We have an understanding of how you do that. But with natives, we just took it. We just took it and we justified it with manifest destiny, with the doctrine of discovery. We said, that's okay, we're here, we discovered it, it's ours. Ignore the people that were here. And then we can justify it because people were fighting for their lives. One of the last battles here was Sand Creek Massacre. When that occurred under our flag, people were there at the direction of the military. It was mostly old people and children. It was the Colorado Cavalry that went in and rousted those people, even though they had an American flag and they had a white truce flag up. They killed old people. They killed women. They killed children. And not only that, you know what they did? You know what those great soldiers of ours did? They took body parts. They made purses out of them. They brought the heads of Indians and lined the streets of Denver. So no, those wars were not fair. And Columbus, who started all this, should no longer be honored. This came from Italians, this compromise. And please, members, I implore you to understand we have to stop venerating this man. We have to take a stand for everyone in this state. Please join me in supporting this bill and stopping the continuing honor of a man who is a disgrace. Thank you.
Representative Malika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, where do I start after what we heard? We advance as a society. Murder is wrong. Genocide is wrong. Slavery is wrong. Rape is wrong. We are not here to celebrate a man that did these things to members of our community, to their ancestors. We are not here to celebrate a man that brings pain to members of our community. And that's what we're doing here, members. We are stopping a state-sanctioned holiday, celebrating a man that brings pain, that represents all of the things that I just said to members of our community. We worked with the Italian community so that we still had a member of their community to celebrate, a member that has brought joy, that has done amazing things for this state. That's what we did. We worked. We want to celebrate Italian-American heritage in the state of Colorado. We don't want to celebrate a man that murdered and raped and enslaved ancestors and members of our community. We have to be better than that as a state, and that's what we're doing, members. I urge a yes vote, and thank you.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I urge a no vote on this. The fact of the matter is, if you go back in history anytime, last time I checked, there's but been one person who's walked this earth who's been perfect and free from sin. I'm certainly not that person. I strive to be that person. If you take a look at past history in Colorado, heck, we have a town named after Cortez, right? Are we going to now go and lead an effort to rename that town? Something that he wasn't always totally couth, was he? Christopher Columbus did some bad things, and we teach that to the history in our schools. We teach that to the kids. But he also did some amazing things. Like I mentioned earlier on seconds, the ability to sail across the Atlantic in just the winds of his sails, not even knowing that he might reach this land or reach any land in the West, that is an amazing accomplishment, an amazing feat for a man at that time. And that's what we celebrate when we celebrate Columbus Day. We celebrate that adventurous, pioneering spirit. And we shouldn't be trying to honor someone else at the expense of Christopher Columbus. I urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1031 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 37 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1031 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title. Majority Leader Gurnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1166 one day to Thursday, February 20th.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1166 will be laid over one day. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 63.
Senate Bill 63 by Senator Lee, also Representatives Weissman and Keene, concerning the recodification of statutory provisions governing the Department of Law.
Majority Leader Gurnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 63 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 63 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, no votes, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 63 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1289.
House Bill 1289 by Representative Kennedy, all Senators Foot and Holberg, concerning the alignment of certain eligibility deadlines affecting precinct caucuses under the Uniform Election Code of 1992.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1289 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1289 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1289 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1030.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Valdez D. and Gray, also Senator Scott and Heisey, concerning the creation of a single annual fleet overweight permit for a commercial motor vehicle that includes both vehicles that have a quad axle grouping vehicle combinations with a trailer that has 2 or 3 axles.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1030 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1030 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Kennedy? Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1030 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1007.
House Bill 1007 by Representatives Coleman and Bunteo, also Senator Fields, concerning increasing the diversity of Colorado's educators in elementary and secondary public schools in connection with making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1007 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1007 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 50 aye votes, 13 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1007 is passed. Co-sponsors. Who was that? It was like a ghost from the past. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1044.
House Bill 1044 by Representatives Byrd and Garnett, House Senators Garcia and Janal, concerning modifications to the pension plans administered by the Fire and Police Pension Association.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1044 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1044 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request permission to offer a third reading technical amendment.
Oh, man. Please proceed. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a technical amendment to eliminate some extraneous language.
The question before the House is Representative Byrd and Majority Leader Garnett's request to offer a third reading amendment to House Bill 1044. Is there any discussion? Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote.
We'll vote on it, and then you can.
Catlin Geithner Humphrey. Please close the machine. With 46 aye votes, 17 no votes, and 2 excused, permission to offer a third reading amendment is granted. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move L006 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L006? The question before us is the passage of L006. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Benavidez. Please close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 2 excused, L006 is passed. Woo! That brings us to the passage of House Bill 1044. Is there any discussion? Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, as you know, speaking on third reading is for extenuating circumstances and serious matters of statewide concern, and I believe this rises to that occasion. A lot of us on second reading, we saw once the fiscal note of $58 million was removed down to zero, a lot of the discussion faded away. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Highlands Ranch, the most beautiful, best place in the world to live and raise a family. We have great schools, parks, open space, and a great fire department. But what we were noticing several years ago as a community, 8-9 years ago, is that firefighter response to certain neighborhoods were slower than they should be. And we as a community came together. We don't have a city council. We don't have a mayor. We don't have anything like that. But we came together as a community and started looking at solutions to try to decrease the amount of time it takes for people to receive firefighters or receive help from a firefighter or a paramedic. And we did several things, merged fire departments. But one of the things we did when we realized what the real problem was is we needed a new firehouse. We needed more fire trucks. We needed more firefighters. And so we came together as a community, figured out how much it would cost, and we, honoring the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, went to the voters and said, would you be willing to increase your mill levy, or your mills, so that we can build a new fire department? We did that. We went to the voters. The voters overwhelmingly said, yes, we need a new fire department, we need more fire trucks, we need more firefighters. The idea is not only to reduce the times for responses in those neighborhoods in need, but is to reduce stress across the entire system, and that is the hope. My fear with House Bill 1044 and the local government impacts is that the new tax revenue, which has been raised from that, will, instead of going to a new fire department, new fire trucks, new firefighters being hired, will go to pay for House Bill 1044. And I want every member in here to understand that this has dramatic impacts on your districts, and I really hope that you have taken the time or will take the time to understand exactly the impact on your districts. The fiscal note on page 4 here takes a look at three municipalities to try to give us as the General Assembly a generic sense of how this might affect big cities, medium cities, and small cities. The first one is the city of Aurora. The impact will be 1.7 million annually when this bill is impacted. That's a lot of firefighters. That's a lot of new fire trucks that are needed. Colorado Springs, it says in here $337 million. That's for the first, or $337,000. That's for the very first year, and that's only part of it. The total impact to Colorado Springs from this bill, and I hope everyone from Colorado Springs is listening, or anyone with a medium-sized municipality in their district, $18.8 million is the impact of this bill to that community. That's a lot of firefighters, that's a lot of police officers, that's a lot of cruisers, that's a lot of fire trucks that Colorado Springs otherwise would be planning, but can't. For the Poudre Fire District alone, it's $626,000 a year. For the town of Basalt, that's put in here, a town of 4,000 people, it's got about 25% kids, so about 3,000 taxpayers. It's going to be $54,570 a year. For a town of Basalt, they plan 10, 15 years ahead to replace their fire truck. And now we're saying that money, instead of going to the new fire truck, needs to go to House Bill 1044. The fact that the $58 million the general fund is taking out, I think, is a good thing, but it does shift all that cost burden to the local taxpayers. The local taxpayers are being overly burdened by this. I wish the FPPA interim committee would sit down again and try to take a better approach to this, look at a solution from all sides, and really find out what the serious problem is and what the goal is we're trying to achieve. Because nothing is more important than making sure that the FPPA is strong going into the future and that we support our firefighters and police officers. But just know that you may be getting a call from your town council, your city council in 2 or 3 years once the impacts really start hitting these local governments, asking how you voted on this bill.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I have a ton of respect for the Assistant Minority Leader, and he's right. This is a very, very important bill, and it's important to understand from the fire and police pension perspective what you're voting on today. The fire and police pension is one of the strongest pensions in the state, if not in the country. But as time has gone on, the cost of delivering those benefits has gone up. In 2014, so when the plan was first established, both the employer and the employee were paying in 8%. As costs continued to go up, employees wanted to increase their contributions with the hope of covering cost of living increases and maybe an increased benefit. So the employees came together in 2014 and voted to increase their contributions by 4%, 0.5% each year. So now the employees, the firefighters, and the members of police departments across the state, our first responders, are paying 12% into the plan, while the employers are paying 8% into the plan. And this is a really important point, members, because the election was based on a hope that there was going to be an increase in benefit. But there hasn't been an increase in benefit. There's been an increase in cost of delivering the plan. And so the employees, our first responders, those who put their lives on the line, are paying 12% into the plan and covering the increased costs on their backs while they're carrying people out of burning buildings. They're also carrying the burden of the increased cost to these plans. So what you're voting on today is a modest approach to balance things out. And so over 8 years, 0.5% each year, the employer is going to start to get to the point where they are paying 12% along with the employees. Seems fair. When you look at the employer contribution for most state plans across the state, look at State Patrol. I have a ton of respect for State Patrol, but the employer pays 23.5% into those plans. So we're asking employers, over 8 years, we're going to increase by 0.5 percentage point each year to bring you to a place where you're even with the first responders who are saving the lives of your constituents every single day, to 12%. Simple. Vote yes. Good bill.
Is there any further? Oh, Majority Leader Garnett, you need to move it as amended.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move House Bill 1044 on third reading and final passage as amended.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1044 as amended on third reading and final passage. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1044 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1109.
House Bill 1109 by Representatives Van Winkle and Garnett, also Senator Gardner, concerning an extension of the income tax credit for the employer contributions to the Employee 529 qualified state tuition programs.
Majority Leader Garnett.
This building works in mysterious ways, Madam Speaker.
Nice.
We're now sponsors on the next bill. I move House Bill 1109 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is whether Representative Van Winkle and Majority Leader Garnett can make up is the passage of House Bill 1109 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Woodrow. Ooh. I smell a fine. Representative Woodrow, that is a... You guys are so mean. Mr. Representative Woodrow, that's a $5 fine. Please close the machine.
How?
With 62 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 2 excused, House Bill 1109 is passed. Co-sponsors, did you pay for him? You've got to stop doing that.
No one has ever paid for a fine under my watch.
You're going to be bankrupt before this session is over, Representative Coleman, if you're paying for everyone's fines. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1158.
House Bill 1158 by Representatives Tipper and Harrod, Senators Winter and Finberg, concerning insurance coverage for infertility and in connection with making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1158 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1158 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Landgraf, Larson, McKean. Landgraf. Please close the machine. With 44 aye votes, 19 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1158 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. That brings us to General Order, second reading of bills. Representative Kipp. You all have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Kipp will take the chair.
Oh, I got it. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Representative Froelich. Mr. Randall, please read the title of HB 20-1100.
House Bill 1100 by Representative Froelich, also Senator Crowder, concerning pass-through child support payments to families that are eligible for temporary assistance for needy families.
Representative Froelich to the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1100 on second reading. I also move the Public Health and Human Services Committee report, and I have an amendment to that committee report.
To the committee report.
I move amendment L002 to House Bill 1100 and ask that it to be displayed on the screen.
The amendment is properly displayed on the screen. Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment comes from further stakeholding with the Colorado counties, and I ask for an aye vote.
The amendment has, okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L002. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, to the bill. Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, to the committee report. My apologies.
I ask for approval of the committee report.
All in favor of the committee report? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, sorry, Representative Froelich. Now to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in 2015, we had a fantastic bill, Senate Bill 12. It made Colorado the first state in the nation to implement full child support pass-through. This program is a victim of its own success. So far, the program has exceeded expectations for success, putting more than $10 million in the pockets of some of Colorado's poorest families with incomes less than $6,000 per year. On average, these families are receiving $167 with incomes less, which makes a significant increase over the $0 they were getting prior. That is because the federal government required that non-custodial child support go back to the government instead of going directly to the family. And data collected from this program shows that 40% of respondents indicated improved relationships with their children and their non-custodial parent, and 60% increased communication with the non-custodial parent. We needed to open up the bill and do a slight shift in terms of legislation, and that is because the original bill was an all-or-nothing proposition. If the funding wasn't there, the program had to stop, and we've implemented some flexibility in the program by allowing for, if the legislature does not appropriate quite enough money, or if the program is even more successful and more people apply, that the counties can then decide whether or not they want to pursue the program or whether they want to turn it off completely. And I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Froelich. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was the only no vote in committee on this bill, and I'd like to explain a little bit of what's going on here. So the sponsor of the bill is absolutely right. This program that we passed a few years ago was a tremendous benefit to the families that are now receiving direct child support payments. The part that's being left out is that these direct child support payments were being used by the counties to backfill the tremendous costs of providing services like TAMF, other Department of Human Services that, frankly, these families are often on. And the deal that was struck in the original bill was that we wanted to make sure that those families were able to get those dollars directly. So we went to the counties and said, counties, we, the General Assembly, believe that this is an important policy to get these dollars into the pockets of those families directly. So we will backfill the cost of providing those services that you have been paying for with these recaptures. So this bill is not about that underlying policy. That underlying policy is strong and continues to be strong. What this bill is about is giving the General Assembly an opportunity to get off of its commitment that it made to the counties. So let me be very clear. This bill is not about, a vote against this bill is not about taking money out of the pockets of these families. These families will continue to receive these dollars. Right now, the General Assembly has simply had its feet held to the fire that says we have to honor our commitment that we made in the original bill, and we need to pay 100% of the cost to the counties. If we vote for this bill as amended, and I do give very much credit to the sponsor because the sponsor has moved a lot on this, so this is not an attack on the work that she did. But we allowed an amendment on in committee that will now essentially allow the General Assembly to fund this program at 90%. So this bill, when you really get down to it, is basically the General Assembly saying we will fund 90% of the cost of the counties. Counties, you got to eat 10% of it, and, you know, good luck. So when you're voting, do not be confused. A vote against this bill is not a vote against the policy of giving direct child support payments to the families that need it. That happens today. That will continue to happen if this bill fails. What this bill will do is the next time we are in a budget season, which will be in a few months here, when we are looking for dollars, which we always are, we have created for ourselves a nice tidy pot where we can put the counties on the hook for 10% of the cost of what we promised we would pay for. And I guarantee you, having been down here one session that's long enough to know, we're going to go to that pot and we're going to shortchange the counties. And then the counties are going to be coming to us talking about the unfunded mandate. We are going to put a tremendous amount of burden on the Health and Human Services departments of each and every single one of our counties that are already underfunded, that are already unable to provide these services. And it will do a detriment to the families that this bill, the underlying program, is purported to help, because we will have less staff and we will have less resources at the county level to provide these services where, frankly, most of these services take place. So be very careful when you vote and talk to your counties. Talk not just to CCI, but reach out to your county commissioners, to your county public health officials, and ask them what a 10% cut to their budget would do, because that is exactly what we are going to do here. So with that, I urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair, esteemed body of representatives. My plea is to the rural district that I represent in 9 counties, because the impact of unfunded mandates hits exponentially hard in eastern and southern Colorado. I don't think the words of my colleague are unwarranted. I don't know where we get all the money. The real challenge I have is, as we continue to harm rural Colorado with unintended consequences of legislation that may be appropriate, we overlook this situation. In this particular case, those unfunded mandates and the ability to generate revenue in rural Colorado continues to shrink as we continue our attack on one of the largest generators of revenue for rural, eastern, and southern Colorado are severance taxes. Okay, severance taxes. That is a real revenue generator for my constituents and those county commissioners that have those resources. As we continue to attack traditional-based fuel resources, petroleum, natural gas, as we continue to promote moving in the direction of a Green New Deal, or whatever you care to call it, we continue to erode the tax base that my counties have.
Representative Holtorf, to the bill, please.
This particular legislation now puts additional expenditure requirements for those counties. So, if you look at this from a purely financial standpoint, it will do some unintended consequences to my House district, as many things in this House we consider will do. So please don't forget the people of rural Colorado. Don't forget Eastern Colorado. Don't forget Southern Colorado. There are real people out there. There are real commissioners that are struggling to keep our counties going. I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to clarify, when we talk about the responsibility of the legislature and the promises that are made, we went back to the bill sponsor. We actually laid this bill over in committee to go back to the original bill sponsor and ask him what his intent was and if he would be okay with making some changes because conditions on the ground change. We all understand this is a valuable program. The return on investment is incredible, and the way it keeps families together, even in the face of divorce, it works. But when we went back to the original bill sponsor, who, by the way, is now a county commissioner in Larimer County, we worked through amendments. We came to a compromise. We came back to committee at our next meeting, and we passed those amendments. And even today, we accepted new amendments from counties. So when we talk about shirking our responsibilities, let's talk about a process that was honored and went back to the original bill sponsor and actually put into place a better way forward that is more fiscally responsible going forward, where there is shared responsibility between counties who are charged with human service programs, not the state. This is a county-run system in Colorado. And at the same time, holds to that basic tenet that this is still a new program and that the state will do more than its fair share to ensure that our counties are getting the services and dollars they need, so families that are otherwise going to be stuck in poverty will have ways to lift themselves out through our child support system. So I encourage an aye vote on this bill as amended, based on the fact that this was a process that the entire committee asked to adhere to. The original bill sponsor is okay with these amendments, and the bill sponsor today on House Bill 1100 held to those agreements. Let's put it on the record that this is a different change, but this is no bait and switch, folks. This is full transparency, full process, and we're going to see a good bill going forward. Please vote yes.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I want to reiterate, this program, the underlying program, the idea of putting child support payments in the pockets of the families that they are intended for, is a great idea. And it is something that I am fully in support of that is going on today. But I want to make it clear, and we need to remember this, if we vote against this bill today, that program not only remains, but it is stronger funded. So that is what we are talking about today. There is nothing impugning the underlying program, and I want to make that abundantly clear because there was some confusion to that effect. And it was not an intentional confusion, it's simply an arcane matter that I feel like a lot of people kind of lost the idea of what we were talking about. But the underlying program, the fact that child support payments that have been in arrears that have started up again will now go to the family. That happens today. That will happen tomorrow if we vote no on this bill, and it will happen tomorrow if we vote yes on this bill. The only thing that this bill changes is how much responsibility the state is willing to own up to. Right now, we are at 100%. We have to match the county's liability dollar for dollar, as we promised in the initial bill. What this bill does is it gives us 10% wiggle room, which is a vast improvement over the original version of the bill, which gave us 100% wiggle room. And I credit the sponsor to that. But make no mistake, this bill allows the state to shirk its financial obligation that it made to the counties. That is what this is about. It does not get to the underlying program. The underlying program is sound regardless of the fate of 1100. So do not be confused. This is about our financial obligation as a state to the counties, period. There is no danger for the underlying program.
Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for impassioned remarks and remarks in favor of the underlying program. But actually, the whole purpose of the bill is to continue the program because the original bill was an all or nothing proposition, regardless on demand and regardless of state appropriations for this program. If it was not funded by the state at 100% of question mark demand. So we're dealing with two fluctuations. One is the state budget and one is demand for the program. And this bill allows us to go out of the all or nothing territory into this compromise position approved by all but one county and by the county commissioner who was the original sponsor of the bill, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill HB 20-1100. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? HB 1120 or HB 20-1100 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of HB 20-1182?
House Bill 1182 by Representatives Arndt and McKean, also Senators Moreno, concerning the repeal of the sales tax exemption for sales to residents of bordering states without retail sales taxes.
Let's see. Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1182. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
This bill is yet another cleanup, but it's kind of an interesting one. So this removes an exemption that no longer applies because we had an exemption for sales tax for people who lived within 20 miles of a surrounding state that did not have sales tax. And we ain't got none of those no more, and so we ain't got that no more. I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 20-1182. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? HB 20-1182 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of HB 20-1205?
House Bill 1205 by Representative McKean, also Senator Moreno, concerning the repeal of the pre-1987 net operating loss deduction for individuals, estates, and trusts.
Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1205. There is no committee report.
I'm sorry, to the bill.
So this bill is the repeal of a pre-1987 net operating loss deduction. That net operating loss deduction would have only been able to be taken up until, I believe it was 2002, sometime in there. And so you can't take it now, and so we have it on the books. We should get it off the books. I urge an aye vote to get it off the books.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of HB 20-1205. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? HB 20-1205 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 17, House Bill 1024, and House Bill 1066 until tomorrow.
Seeing no objection, the bills will be laid over, as requested by the Assistant Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of HB 20-1082?
House Bill 1082 by Representatives Rich and Valdez, also Senator Story and Fields, concerning the authority of the State Historical Society to dispose of real property in Georgetown, Colorado.
Representatives Rich and Alex Valdez. Representative Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 20-1082.
To the bill. Representative Valdez.
So this is a pretty simple bill, folks. Basically what this does allows the State Historical Society to sell a piece of property in Georgetown. We got far more than it was appraised value, so that's great. It's going to go to the State Museum Fund, and it's all around pretty simple. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of HB 20-1082. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? HB 20-1082 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1103. Sorry.
Okay. Seeing no objection, we will continue with House Bill 1103. I'm trying to find it, sorry. Okay. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of HB 20-1103?
House Bill 1103 by Representatives Buckner and Will, also Senators Fields and Priola, concerning health insurance coverage for colorectal cancer screening.
Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 20-1103.
To the bill.
To the bill. This bill,
I apologize. You need to move the committee report.
Oh, there's a committee report? Health and Insurance Committee report.
There's a health and insurance report.
There is.
Bear with us for just one moment.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, we have an amendment.
Are you just waiting a second?
Report.
Okay.
So we're just getting
Okay.
committee report.
I'll go
didn't know
let
there
her.
was one.
Did you already move it, though?
Yeah, I already moved the
Okay.
bill.
I don't have a committee report.
Right.
I don't have it.
Thank you for your patience, Madam Chair.
We're just waiting for a moment while the amendment is drafted, so if you'll bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have these two.
Yeah, we have this. And all this did was change definition.
Are you good with the amendment? Okay.
Representative Buckner to the committee report.
Thank you for your patience. I move the committee report for House Bill 1103.
The question before us is the committee report for HB 20. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask that the committee stand in a brief recess while we get this sorted out.
The committee is in a brief recess. The committee will come back to order.
It's been moved. You can just recognize Neville.
Representative Neville, Minority Leader Level.
Okay.
Are you guys ready for him to move
Yes.
the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Either way. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L004 and ask for it to be properly displayed.
Amendment L004 has been moved and is properly displayed. Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the majority. This bill moved up kind of quick, so we were drafting an amendment, so I appreciate their working with me and going into brief recess while this amendment is being drafted. What the amendment does is essentially makes it so that it's mandatory for the plans to provide this in a plan, one of their plans that they have, but not all of them. So essentially the consumers would have the option to pick a plan that has this coverage in it, but wouldn't be forced to. They could have a different plan that doesn't have this coverage that might be a little less expensive, but it gives the consumers a choice.
Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Minority Leader, for helping us. We moved this up because we have a special guest here with us today who is an instrumental part of this bill. So we move the committee report, and I have nothing to add.
I believe we need to vote on the amendment first. So the question before us is Amendment L004. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The amendment passes. Okay, now to the committee report.
The committee report is, Madam Chair, the committee report is really exciting because this bill moved out of committee 13-0, which is really unusual. It did?
Oh, okay. Thank you. To the bill. Representative Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm really excited about 1103, and I do, Representative Buckner mentioned that one of the proponents of this bill who did one of the most compelling testimonies in committee that I've ever heard is sitting on the side with his wife, Yone. So thank you and welcome, Scott, and your wife, Yone. I really appreciate you being here. This is near and dear to his heart. It's a cancer survivor. So this bill is colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in Colorado. If it's caught early, it's preventable. And half of the colorectal cancer diagnoses among Coloradans are age 50 plus are late stage. They're all late stage. And it's growing at an alarming rate. 65% of all these diagnoses are among the 45 to 49-year-old Coloradans, and they're in late stage. So effective screening, what we're doing with this bill is moving it down from age 50 to age 45, and it would really reduce deaths in Colorado. It also helps with the non-invasive screening. If it's a positive on that, we end up with this bill makes you have to go in and remove the polyps and do all those things associated with that. And if you do that, your likelihood of survival is 7 times what it was without it. So I very much so support this bill and ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of HB 20-1103. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? HB 20-1103 passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Randall, could you please read the title of HB 20-1086?
House Bill 1086 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Larson, all Senator Fields, concerning health insurance coverage for an annual mental health wellness examination performed by a qualified mental health care provider.
Representative Michelson, Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to stand before you with House Bill 1086. What House Bill 1086 will do will bring Colorado to true parity. We've been talking about parity for 19 years.
Representative Michelson, Janae, I hate to interrupt you, but we need to do the committee reports first.
Sorry. I move House Bill 1086 and the committee report.
Thank you. Can we start with the appropriations report?
And the Appropriations Committee report. Sorry.
To appropriations.
The Appropriations Committee report added an appropriation.
To the Health and Insurance report. We have to vote on the appropriations report. My apologies. Okay, the question is approval of the appropriations report. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The report passes. On to the Health and Insurance report.
In the health and insurance report, we added several amendments that were at the request. Did we have?
I believe we had a clarifying.
Oh. I don't remember what that amendment was.
Oh.
Hold on. That was appropriations. The amendment.
Excuse me. Hey guys, I have
Strike or certified. Oh, we needed to amend the printed bill on page 4, line 15 to strike or certified.
Thank you. All in favor? Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Health Insurance Committee report. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My second bill up in the cow this year, so I'm a little bit rusty. So thank you for guiding me through it. Back to why I'm so excited about House Bill 1086, and really, truly, I am. We've been talking about parity in this chamber for 19 years. And what does parity mean? And parity, if you look up the word, actually means equal. And the idea of parity was, how do we get our behavioral health care services and system to be equal to our physical health care services and system? And we have been trying all sorts of different ways to go about that. But we have been dancing around a singular problem. We consider our behavioral health care system a crisis-only system. So imagine you go to the doctor for your annual physical, and the doctor says to you, hey, you know, your blood pressure is up. Give me a call when you have a heart attack. That is our behavioral health care system right now. Wait till you have a heart attack, go to the emergency department, see the emergency department team, have them medicate you or put you into a facility or a 72-hour hold, all the possible things that happen when you go to the emergency department. Because we have not looked at behavioral health care as in a preventative health care model. And there have been a couple of studies from around the United States where they have tried this preventative health care model and have seen huge success. So imagine every year you not only go for your physical, but you go for your annual mental health wellness exam. And you have time to sit down with a qualified mental health care provider to talk about the different stages of your life or your children's lives. And more importantly, if you should ever get into crisis, you know who to call because you've established that care. And let me tell you, members, if we want to save money on health care, this is a mechanism for saving money on health care. And I'll let my co-prime talk about the saving money on health care component.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to my co-sponsor for bringing this bill to me. I do want to give credit where credit is due. I am happy to be along for the ride, but this is absolutely Daphna's baby. So what attracted me to this bill is simple. It's a return on investment proposition. There is overwhelming data about the cost effectiveness and the cost reductions to the overall system for primary care for physical health. This is recognizing that principle and applying it to mental health. We are spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars in this state treating substance abuse disorder, anger management, physical abuse. The list goes on. And these are all things with a root in mental health that could possibly have been diverted or avoided had we gotten to that earlier. And exactly what my co-prime was saying, this bill will go a huge way in removing the stigma that people feel about approaching a mental health professional, about getting help for perhaps depression, perhaps a substance use disorder, perhaps any other number of things. And what will hopefully become a relatively inexpensive and brief visit once yearly will avoid tens of thousands of dollars in costs to treat, full-blown alcoholism, tens of thousands of dollars to treat full-blown drug addiction, tens of thousands of dollars and devastation to the family that an untreated anger management issue could have with it potentially develops into an abusive situation that then goes into divorce, child separation, child trauma. The list goes on and on. We worked with the health insurance plans. The health insurance plans were neutral on this bill. And they honestly gave an assessment that this would have a negligible impact on the immediate term on their premiums. And they agreed with me when I asked them that this has a very real potential for long-term savings for premiums because we are going to avoid those longer-term costs. Now, this isn't a panacea. This is going to take some time. The stigma isn't going to disappear overnight. Awareness of this benefit is not going to suddenly, pop up on everybody's radar tomorrow, and we aren't going to see every single person go out and take advantage of this. But as people get more and more aware of this benefit, and as the stigma erodes and people are more comfortable seeking help for the very real mental health issues that they may have, the profession will grow, the infrastructure we have within our medical system will grow to accept and accommodate this increased demand. It will be great for our state because we will be spending less money, we will have less strain on our child support services, less strain on our health and human services at our county levels, at our state levels. So this bill is all around good idea. It's got your ROI in it. It's got better outcomes for the patients. It's got better outcomes for the bottom line for the consumer. And with that, I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Representative Wilson, or Minority Leader Lemvo, who wants to go first? Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification, because we're talking about saving money. The fiscal note is small. There's going to be negligible impact on the health insurance part of that, from what you're saying. Who's going to pay for this? Because a lot of people are going to take advantage of it, and having used the services of mental health people before, they're not cheap. So who pays for it?
Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Wilson. The federal government has what they call MAPIA, which is their Mental Health Parity Act, which requires a certain level of care. This particular level of care falls under the Mental Health Practice Act, therefore not considered a new mandate in Colorado. This mandate already exists. So where the balance of the money comes from, that will, first of all, it's going to work itself out. Representative Larson gave a prime example of when we, well, or maybe I did, when we seek care on the front end, we save a lot of money on the back end. So will there be expenses associated? Yes, there will, but they will level out throughout the system, which again is why I believe part of why the insurance companies are neutral.
Representative Larson.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, just to piggyback on that, when an insurance company goes to calculate its premiums every year, they do an actuarial analysis of the entire covered pool of people that are purchasing that particular product, and then they try to estimate what the costs are, what percentage of the people that are in that pool are going to utilize certain services. So with this bill, what we would essentially be doing, and what the actuarial analysis I suspect will reflect, will be that yes, there will be an increased usage in that primary mental health care field, which again, we're talking about services that range from $100 to a few $100s typically on a billing. What you're going to see also is a actuarial decrease in the number and percentage of people in that same insurance pool that will be utilizing more expensive services such as emergency care to treat a drug overdose, psoriasis treatment, or liver transplant, or complications from alcoholism, or emergency room visits to treat broken bones, things associated with abusive conduct, suicidality. All of these things are tremendously expensive and have a number of other codes associated with them, emergency room visits, expensive surgical interventions. So when you're talking about taking 1 or 2 suicide attempts off the table, you're paying for tens of thousands of these primary healthcare visits because going to the emergency room can cost $50,000 in one go. Primary care mental health is, we're talking about, depending on what level of service and who you go to see, we're talking about $100 to a few $100s for a billing service. So that's where this is going to pan out. And again, this is conjecture. We don't have the numbers because we will be the first state in the union to actually recognize the federal mandate and the federal parity. But in my discussions with with health insurance companies, in my discussions with actuaries, it's been explained to me that there's a very real possibility and frankly likelihood that in the long run this is going to reduce costs, because when they're going to do those analysis, they will now say we are going to save on these more expensive interventions because these issues will be treated earlier.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I move L002 and ask for it to be properly displayed.
Thank you. The amendment L002 has been moved and is properly displayed. Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I understand this is a noble cause to mandate that the plans provide this coverage. I just get a little concerned. Each one of these sounds noble on their own, but as we add up all these different mandates to the insurance, the overall price of insurance is going to increase. So what this does, it's more of a middle ground, just like the last amendment, where it says that the plans have to offer a plan that has this coverage and offer that plan to the consumers, but the consumers can choose whether or not they choose to have that coverage in their plan.
Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I will say that I am always concerned when we do things that increase costs to health insurance, because we don't want to make health insurance any more expensive than it is. And I had a concern about this bill, and I worked with the bill sponsors to address that, and they worked with the plans, and the plans were neutral and or supportive on the bill. So I believe that this is unnecessary when we talk about costs, that the plans did not believe that it would increase costs. So if you had been in our committee, you would have heard that and understood what we were talking about. So I would ask for a no vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand in support of this amendment. Let's be realistic. The insurance companies know how to make money. If this was, we're talking about money right now. If this would save them money, they'd already be doing it. They know a lot about this, a lot more than we would. So so let's give them a choice. So there's some insurance companies that will jump on this and accept the nudge. There's others that may not be in line for the government coming in and disrupting their business plan. This is a mandate. Let's all recall this is a forced mandate of the government, forcing a business to offer a product. Let's give these businesses, which is the insurance companies, the option. Thank you.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minority Leader Neville, and I appreciate you bringing this to my attention prior to offering it. Members, I will be asking for a no vote today, and there's a few reasons why. First of all, as my co-sponsor and I alluded to, this is actually a recognition of a federal law that is already on the books. So federal law requires this coverage. It simply has not been reflected in the states. So that's the first thing, is that I'm not entirely sure this would put us in alignment with federal law. Secondarily, while I appreciate the idea of what's behind here, the fact is insurance markets do not operate like typical consumer products. Because they are heavily regulated, because they have both regulation at the federal and at the state level, we need to have, the average consumer isn't necessarily aware of what is and isn't covered on certain plans. So to argue that people would be able to discern between these plans, knowing what benefits are and are not offered, it would simply become, first of all, a huge financial burden on the plans to actually create a separate plan to offer on the exchange to compete, if this is the only differentiator between the two of them. And then also, what could potentially happen is that people would unwittingly sign up for a plan, not knowing that they're not covered for this service, attempt to utilize it, and then find that they are in fact uninsured. As somebody who is deeply invested in our free market approach to healthcare, we need to make sure that people are invested in our private insurance system. And if we're introducing additional confusion, if we're introducing additional cost to the plans to design a whole nother actuarial analysis, a whole other approval through the insurance commissioner, and then to have to go and offer that on the plan, any cost savings that those plans would see from offering a separate plan would be eaten up in the additional administrative burden. So I appreciate the underlying idea. I appreciate the forewarning, but I will ask respectfully for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is what we all signed up for, was this kind of struggle of the heart and of the head. And so I'm supporting this amendment, but I also support the bill. And let me tell you that the bill was a struggle, as you can imagine, for those of us on the right side of the aisle during the committee hearing, but we all unanimously came down in support of the bill, and I will be voting for this bill. The bill, I am talking to the amendment, but within the context, the bill addresses our mental health as the annual review that we ought to all be getting from our doctors. There's the struggle of mandating, government mandates of private industry. So this amendment addresses that. I think there's not a perfect solution anywhere in all this, but I think we can do something pretty darn good. So I like the amendment as an approach to how do we soften it a little bit and in mandating what private industry is going to do. So I support the amendment with all due respect to my colleague from Jefferson County, but I will be supporting his bill, which I think is the kind of thing that this body ought to be doing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L002. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. The bill fails. Or, I'm sorry, the amendment fails. So sorry. My apologies.
Okay, members, thank you. That was a hearty, robust conversation. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of HB 2020-1086. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? No. The bill passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice work today, everybody. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills being considered under the exploring recommendations there on House Bill 1082, House Bill 1086, is amended House Bill 1100, is amended House Bill 1103, is amended House Bill 1182, House Bill 1205, passing or gross counter third and final passage, House Bill 1024, House Bill 1066, and Senate Bill 17 laid over until February 20th, 2020, and retaining their place on the calendar.
Oh my gosh, who was in the chair? Representative Kipp. You all have heard the motion. There are two amendments at the desk. Mr. Randall, please read the Neville amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Neville amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Neville moved to amend report of the committee will reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Neville amendment 002 to House Bill 1086 shows that been passed. The House Bill 1086 is amended passed.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, all this simply does is make it so that the plans have to offer that coverage within one of their plans, but they could still offer coverage that doesn't have, or a plan that doesn't have that coverage, makes it permissive, gives the consumers choice. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any more discussion on the Neville amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, esteemed colleagues, for your attention. In support of our minority leader, choice is a very wonderful thing. Choice in healthcare, allowing to make choices. I think this amendment is a good amendment to allow for choice. It doesn't take away from the bill. I think it just allows for choice. And it also allows for what I call market adjustment. If you think about economics, market adjustment is when the market reacts to choice. And there will be a significant economic benefit, I believe, to all as the market adjustment may take place with this amendment. So please be very cautious and careful and consider choice in the marketplace, choice for people, and then how private sector and insurance companies will allow for marketplace adjustment that'll provide economic benefit to this choice as they react to this legislative initiative. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Michelson-Jeannet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. The goal of this bill is to wholesale change the way we do behavioral health care in this state. We are moving from a crisis management system to a preventative care model. In the 1940s, we began doing preventative care and an annual physical. By some reports, the insurance companies the doctors didn't see value until the 2000s, but the insurance companies saw the value because their costs were going down, and the cost to the consumer was going down with preventative care. It's time to move behavioral health care to a preventative model, but that does not work if you cannot be assured that your insurance company provides you with the utmost in preventative care. And more than that, members, we have a federal parity law. The only reason we are new to this, that we are not seeing this yet in our insurance companies, is because we are still looking at behavioral health care as a crisis model. So we are supporting that crisis model. If we want parity, parity equals preventative care for physical and preventative care for annual, and I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Neville amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the Neville amendment to the House Bill 1080, or to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Champion. Please close the machine. With 21 aye votes, 42 no votes, and 2 excused, the Neville amendment is lost. Mr. Randall, please read the Buckner amendment. The Buckner and Will amendment.
Representatives Buckner and Will move to amend the report of the committee will reverse the action taken by the committee in adopting the following Neville Amendment 004 to House Bill 1103 shows that the amendment lost and that the Health and Insurance Committee report to House Bill 1103 as amended passed.
Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Buckner-Will amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Please proceed.
Yes, there was a misunderstanding of the amendment when first offered, so we are asking for an aye vote on this amendment.
Representative Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I just urge a no vote. This does the no vote does what the yes vote did on the previous one, but I do appreciate the majority working with me, and sorry for all the confusion on this amendment.
Representative Lontine.
And just real quick, the comments I made about the amendment in the previous bill certainly apply to this. The sponsors did work with the health plans, and they were either neutral or in support of the bill as it was passed. And so I urge an aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
The question before us is the Buckner and Will amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 2 excused, the Buckner-Will amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is passed. That brings us to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 2 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is passed. That brings us to announcements and introductions. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Guess what today is? Today is Colorado Renewable Energy Day. Woohoo! And as declared by the governor of the state of Colorado, and we have a proclamation, Mr. Randall. I'd love to have it.
We have a proclamation from the governor, members. If you, Mr. Randall, if you could read it at length.
State of Colorado, proclamation. Whereas Colorado leads the nation in abundant renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, biomass, and small hydropower, Colorado was the first state to pass a voter-initiated renewable energy standard when Amendment 37 passed in the 2004 general election. Whereas Colorado is home to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, the world's premier national laboratory in renewable energy technologies. Most renewable energy technologies produce no air pollution and require no water consumption for power generation. And whereas wind and solar energy are among the nation's fastest growing energy industries and are now often combined with energy storage to continue Colorado's leadership in the energy sectors. Colorado hosts 3,706 megawatts of wind energy, ranking 8th in the nation, and 1,301 megawatts of solar energy capacity developed, ranking 12th in the nation. And whereas the wind industry has invested over $7.1 billion of private capital in generation projects, manufacturing plants, and supply chain operations, including 17 wind-related manufacturing facilities. The solar industry has invested over $3 billion in the state of Colorado, and whereas Colorado landowners receive between $5 and $10 million in annual land lease payments, over 14,000 Coloradans are directly employed by renewable energy industries. And whereas in 2019, the Colorado General Assembly passed and Governor Polis signed multiple bills encouraging further advancement and development of renewable energy sources. And whereas chief amongst this legislation included House Bill 19-1261 Climate Action Plan to Reduce Pollution, stating that the Colorado implements statewide goals to reduce 2025 greenhouse gas emissions by at least 26%. 2030 greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50%, and 2050 greenhouse gas emissions by at least 90% of the levels of greenhouse gas emissions that existed in 2005. Therefore, I, Jared Polis, Governor of the State of Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 19th of 2020 as Colorado Renewable Energy Day in the state of Colorado, given under my hand and signed with the executive seal of the state of Colorado this 19th day of February 2020, signed Jared Polis, Governor.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Colorado's unique landscape means that we lead the country in renewable resources like wind, solar, biomass, geothermal, small hydroelectric, and other types of renewable energy. Technological innovation and continued reduction in manufacturing costs have positioned wind and solar resources as the most cost-competitive renewable resources on the market. Renewable energy provides substantial benefits for Colorado, including, of course, reducing the energy sector's impact on public health and our environment, increased resiliency of our electrical grid, protecting customers from volatile fuel prices, and creating renewable energy jobs across our state. As a matter of fact, the renewable energy sector in our state, we have more than 17,000 jobs that increase every single solitary day. Colorado even ranks 8th in the country for the number of solar jobs. Addressing our climate crisis is not a matter of when, nor is it a matter of how. It is something we must do now, and supporting the renewable industry is just one way we can help. Thank you, members, kindly for your attention. I appreciate it. And I might remind you, you want to learn a little bit more about this? Lunch downstairs. Topic, the road to a carbon-free future.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once again, hopefully we'll see some of you at the Colorado Assisted Living Association tonight, 5:30, over at the Colorado Automobile Dealers Association at CADA. And also, if there's any good source of renewable energy, it is the people of the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee, who will be meeting today in room 112 at 11:31 to hear House Bills 1197 and House Bill 1206. So we'll look forward to seeing you at about 10 minutes, 11:31.
Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Business Affairs and Labor Committee will have 3 bills today. We'll start out with Senate Bill 47, House Bill 1089, and House Bill 1039. Will be in room 107. Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Capital Development Committee, we will not have a meeting tomorrow morning. No meeting tomorrow morning.
Any other announcements or introductions? We're going to read a couple reports. Mr. Randall, please read reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Business, Affairs, and Labor have shared the merits of the agreement following House Bill 1046 be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1165 via amended as follows and as amended be further committee hold favorable recommendation. Committee on Education after consideration the merits of the agreement following House Bill 1275 be amended as follows and as amended be further committee hold favorable recommendation. Committee on Health and Insurance after consideration the merits of the agreement following Senate Bill 43 be further committee hold favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 113 be further committee hold favorable recommendation. Committee on Judiciary after consideration the merits of the agreement the following Senate Bill 100 be further committee hold favorable recommendation. Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs after consideration the merits of the agreement following House Bill 1168 be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1269 be postponed indefinitely. Committee on Transportation and Local Government considers the merits of the agreement following House Bill 1145 be amended as follows and as amended for the committee hold favorable recommendation. House Bill 1178 be amended as follows and as amended be for the committee hold favorable recommendation. House Bill 1266 be amended as follows and as amended be for the committee hold favorable recommendation. House Bill 1279 be amended as follows and as amended be for the committee on Appropriations favorable recommendation.
Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has passed on
Message from the Senate will be printed in the Journal. Message from the Revisor.
We herewith transmit.
Message from the Revisor will be printed in the Journal. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stay in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will be in recess till later today.